How to predict your own afterlife. Dayform Celestial. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. Everything has the ability to move and develop, and this includes life. When we see a pregnant woman, we know that she is conceiving life. She is having a baby. After the baby is born, we know that it will gradually grow up, move from childhood to adolescence, youth, middle age, and old age. After spring, we know it will be summer, fall, and winter. As long as we know our situation, we can predict our life state in our next phase. To speculate about your afterlife, you first need to understand the non-material structural state of your life. You cannot see your life's non-material structure with your naked eyes. The only way to do this is to examine your own consciousness. You can predict your afterlife according to the characteristics of your own consciousness. Consciousness is the essences of life. Different consciousnesses determine different life states. Some days ago, Foshan Celestial and I went to enjoy a terrace in Yuanyang, Yunnan. When we went deep into the village and I saw how some elderly Hani people were having hard lives, I asked him, "These elderly people have suffered in this valley throughout their lifetimes. Will they continue to be here in their afterlives? They should leave this valley." Foshan Celestial replied, "They will continue to reincarnate here because they have no other place or world in their consciousnesses unless they desire to leave this valley and learn about the outside world." This answer reveals the secret of reincarnation. Consciousness decides existence. To an individual life, what is not in consciousness does not exist. What is wanted to be exist, it must exist in consciousness at first. As the French philosopher René Descartes put it, "I think, therefore I am." Why do I have the nerve to say that I can guide Chanyuan Celestials to the Celestial Islands continent? Because I keep infusing the content of it into them. When they understand all the details about it, especially the characteristics of life and the lifestyles of the super celestial beings there, and gradually clear away other consciousnesses, they will undoubtedly go to the Celestial Islands continent in their next lives. This is scientific truth. It is meticulous and exact. So, how can you predict your own afterlife? You must read and fully understand life's 18 qualities in humans, beings, and life first, and then you will know. People look alike in appearance, but they are very different deep inside. At the same time, you can check your faults by referring to the Supreme Book of Rewards and Punishments. Here are seven suggestions. If you have killed many dogs, then you will be a dog in your next life. This is karma and exact. You can make analogies for other cases. If you have murdered a person, then you will inevitably go to the hell world, the inflamed layer or the frozen layer. Divine's punishments, though slow, are always sure, with big meshes, yet letting nothing slip through. If you have abused life, then you will definitely go to the hell world, the netherworld. You reap what you sow. If you oppress the good and kind, swindle and cheat, steal and loot, then you will go to the animal world. As you sow, so shall you reap. If you love freedom, but are still ignorant, then you will be a bird. If you owe too many debts that are left unpaid, then you will likely go to the livestock world. If you are kind and hardworking and love your family, culture, and state very much, then you will continue to be reborn as mortal human. Remember the warnings and teachings of Jesus Christ. If you leave a penny of unpaid debt, then you cannot leave the place where you owe it. If you have unfulfilled wishes, then you will return back to the mortal world. You will have to investigate into your past lives. Do not assume that if you forget something, it will just go away. Make a careful list of your wrongdoings from the Supreme Book of Rewards and Punishments. If you find some, do not just let them go, but learn to compensate. Here are six suggestions. If you have harmed animals, henceforth love them. If you have harmed people, henceforth love them. If you owe someone emotionally, pay back the emotion. If you owe debts, pay back the debts. Ask for forgiveness for the damage, abuse, and bullying of people or other life. Do merits as far as possible and do merits according to the teachings of Buddha. Do more formless almsgiving. If your merits are great enough, you can compensate for your faults and debts that have accumulated over many generations. If you have a clear conscience and have paid back the grace of your parents and nature, and if you do not owe a single debt to any person or animal, then you will be free to go to heaven in your next life. Those who talk about spirits, deities, fortune, and disaster, lose nature, are sneaky, speak voices dripping with sarcasm, resort to sorcery, and talk nonsense will become ghosts, demons, and monsters. We can just look at the variety of fruits and flowers that we see. Why are they so different from each other? The reason lies in the structures of their lives. Their different life structures are the differences of their entities, and in the teachings of Chinko and Celestial, their forms and uses will be different. Always remember these four truths. If you eliminate the concepts of family, nation, culture, and religion from your consciousness, are fond of freedom, happiness, and joy, have repaid all your debts in the mortal world, and have done merits, then you will go to the 1,000-year world of heaven. If you often dream of flying and are in a state of joy without having sexual contact, then you will go to the 10,000-year world of heaven. If you possess Buddha consciousness, then you will go to the corresponding Elysium world. If you revere the greatest creator, revere life, take the way of the greatest creator, have obtained supernatural powers, and can fancy an ideal world, then there is no doubt that you will go to the celestial islands continent of the Elysium world. You are the one who knows best about what kind of non-material structure your life has achieved. If you do not know, then your spiritual perception has not yet opened, and you should work at opening it. The above are general ideas and may not be very accurate, but they can serve as a general navigation. You need to draw inferences about other cases from one instance in order to predict your afterlife.
人生的轨迹与自由意志。
The trajectory and free will of life. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. There are many times more stars in the sky than people on Earth. Each star floats along its own orbit around the galaxy, and each orbit is determined and is not its free choice. Life also has its track. Birth, growth, aging, and death is our inescapable course. 18. Properties cannot be self-managed within life's track. If we make a detailed search and analysis, we can see that each detail on life's track is predetermined, including our name, temperament or character, words and actions, who we will encounter, what we will suffer, what diseases we will succumb to at each stage of life, when the end will come, and so on. Here is the question. Since our life trajectory and its details are already predestined, do people have free will or not? And if they do have free will, how then is it manifested? There is no doubt that people have free will. It is precisely this free will that causes the hesitation, trouble, agony, fear, and sadness in life. The universe is one. The universe is holographic. The universe is a big play. Everything that happens in human society is a single episode of the big play of the universe. Everyone is an actor on this big stage of life and performs in strict accordance with a predetermined plot and is playing their role in this prescribed scenario. The hesitations, troubles, agonies, fears, sadness, and other psychological feelings in life result from the conflicts and contradictions between each person's free will and their role in the play. You are asked to play a mouse, but your free will wants you to play an elephant. You are asked to live in a thatched cottage, but your free will wants you to live in a 5-star hotel. You are asked to cooperate and serve a certain person, but you attempt to make them cooperate and serve you. You are asked to grow vegetables, but you hope to make a spaceship. You are asked to do good or evil, but you choose to do the opposite, and so on. This is the conflict between your role in the play and your free will. Whenever the arrangement of the play is contradicted by free will, hesitation, trouble, agony, anxiety, fear, worry, and sadness will take over. If your free will agrees with the arrangement of the plot, you will feel peace, joy, happiness, and blessings in your heart and feel free. The highest realm of self-refinery and self-improvement requires you to eliminate your self-persistence and to become free from ego. It is only in this way that you can unite with Tao. Then, when you do that, you will attain the spiritual state of an immortal. Here is another question. Since everything is predestined, what is the value and meaning of struggling and making efforts? First, the so-called struggling and making efforts are barely more than nonsense. When a program is determined, the role to be played is determined and one's so-called struggles and efforts are determined. That is, you will have to struggle and make efforts because a series of things will force you to. It is decided by the non-material structure of your life. Your character and temperament will force or encourage you to struggle and make efforts. This is determined by the self-state. It is not that I want to struggle and make efforts, but my character and the things happening around me and their ramifications prompt me to do so. This is described as, many things are not in charge of our hands in this world. Every person yearns for a better future and to go to heaven, so who can eventually achieve their most beautiful dreams. Also, now that everything is predestined, what is the point of personal yearning? This involves some of the programs of the play of the universe. The play of the universe has destiny and variables. The plot of the play is destiny. Who shall play which characters in the play are variables. If you play well, you can constantly play the role more according to your free will, such as to play in heaven. If you play badly, you will play a role more deviated from your free will, such as to play a demon in hell. Who then will go to heaven? Anyone who can play the role in accordance with the established plot of the play, free from self-persistence and free from ego, will go to heaven, but anyone who has conflicts with the arranged plot, that is, whose self-conscious is too strong and is unwilling to play the role, will end up in hell. We can find such a secret from this. Going to heaven or hell has nothing to do with the role you play, but everything with how well you play it. For instance, from most people's perspective, Adolf Hitler should definitely be in hell, but from the plot of the play of the universe, if he played his part very well, he would be in heaven. No matter what your role is, an emperor or a thief, as long as you play it well, your reward will be to go to heaven. If you do not play it well, you will be doomed to reside in hell. So, how does one know whether they are playing well or not? Here is a very simple validation method. Namely, no matter what role you play, be it one with much pain and suffering or one that enjoys happiness and pleasure, be it a role to ride the whirlwind or one to suffer the commonplace. If you can stay calm, be happy and joyful, free from hesitation, trouble, agony, anxiety, worry, and fear, but with gratitude, then you have played well. Otherwise, you will have failed the role. Those who have mastered the essence of the teachings and instructions of Buddha understand that self-persistence is the biggest obstacle to the Elysium world. Self-persistence is the result of a strong free consciousness. If you do everything according to your own ideas and wishes, if you always believe that yours is a just cause, if you always insist on your own views, if you always know that you are right, then you cannot play the arranged plot of the play very well, and you will be miserable and unable to be rewarded with the Tao of Heaven. Take things as they are. Associate with others by following your predestined relationships. Acting in accordance with your nature and taking advantage of opportunities is the best way to play the role.
雪峰是缘
The interpretation of predestined ties. Xiefeng, translated by treasure and edited by care. Tie, a bond of information that will reconnect two lives in the future for favor, disgrace, or injury. Once you get a tie, it must be ended, otherwise their attractive force will be inescapable. Predestined ties. Potential energy accumulates from the attractive forces between lives. It circulates in infinite space and eternal time until it reaches the point where it transforms into kinetic energy, releases it, and then causes the attractive force to disappear. Favorable ties. The information to be processed that remains in the negative universe which result from the love and honor between lives who bless each other and are eager to reunite. The information will never disappear until these wills are realized and the ties end. Good karma. One life gives another life a sincere blessing and a favor that will cause a corresponding gravity to return in the future. Evil karma. The hatred and debt between lives which never disappear until the hatred is settled or the debt is paid off. Worldly ties. All the information left and all the debts owed in the mortal world are called worldly ties. Marriage ties. The love-hate relationships between husbands and wives are called marriage ties. Celestial ties. A bond with a celestial being is called a celestial tie. End ties. End ties are when all debts are paid back. Following predestined ties. According to the arrangement of the universal scenario and plot, accept and play the assigned role with pleasure. Ties are kinds of invisible meshes which are established between lives. Divine punishments are slow, but always sure with big meshes, yet letting nothing slip through. Once getting a tie, It must be ended, otherwise you will be unable to escape their meshes. Worldly ties must be ended in the mortal world, heavenly ones must be ended in heaven, and hellish ones must be ended in hell. Ties are attractive forces. Those which are not ended will stay in tow forever, no matter how far apart in time or space, and they can never be escaped. Anyone who wants to go to heaven must end all ties in the mortal world as soon as possible, whether they are good karma, evil karma, favorable ties, or marriage ties. As long as there are the ties, it is best to end them as soon as possible, otherwise you will be unable to leave the mortal world, and will have to reincarnate back into the mortal world of samsara to end the ties in future lives.
缘的奥秘和真谛。
The Secret and Truth of Predestination I. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. Preface: brushing against shoulders in this life is the result of the 500 times of looking back in the previous lives. To ride in the same boat is the result of 100 years of cultivation. To sleep on the same pillow is the result of millennia of cultivation. Knowing I am not destined to enter her heart, how can I compare with the catkins and swallows? Flowers bloom and wither. Tides rise and fall. Spring awakens the branches. Running water is heartless, but the grass welcomes it every year. People may have sorrow or joy and be near or far apart, but the moon will still wax and wane. Born of these scenes, can the word sorrow suffice? Dynasties fall, but mountains and rivers remain. So how many times can we see the beautiful sunset? The events of our world are like games of chess. Each game is only new because it is destined to be so. In a life, people endure hardships and twists and turns in the mortal world and repeat samsara. Some people are designated to meet from thousands of miles apart, but not to know their next-door neighbors. All these are predestination. All things are predestined. Definition of predestination. Predestination is the cause of generating, sustaining, destroying, and changing of all forms and all things, and is the cause of all events. It is the bridge and the tie which causes sorrow and joy, separations and reunions. It is the factor which decides the development of matter and the origins of desires, words, and deeds connected to other things in the universe which are bound to happen in the future since beginningless time. It is a kind of debt after receiving other services or graces which have not been paid back timely. It is the set of revenge, wrong with wrong. Several cases of predestination. 614 years ago, Emperor Qingzu of Ming, King of Yin, Zhu Di killed 873 members of the 9 tribes of the Fang Xiaoru clan. Yet he still could not vent his anger and counted Fang Xiaoru's students as one clan and killed them all. Many people perished. Why did that happen? What was its cause? It turned out that Fang Xiaoru's father had selected a cemetery plot. At night, he dreamed that the Red Snake King was sticking his red tongue out and requesting earnestly that he delay the groundbreaking for 1 or 2 days so that his family could move away. The next day, the Fang family dug the earth and built their tomb as scheduled. Soon, the workers exclaimed, "We have found a red snake pit." Countless red snakes slithered and fled in panic. Fang Xiaoru's father ordered them to kill all the red snakes with fire and knives. That night, the bleeding red snake king cursed him in a dream. "I will kill as many of you as you killed of us." Shortly thereafter, the Fang family gave birth to a baby son, Fang Xiaoru. Born into a scholarly family, he was very smart and diligent as a boy. He was eloquent and charming in appearance, and his tongue was red. He was the reincarnation of the Red Snake King. He deliberately resisted an imperial edict from King Yin in order to enrage him and fulfill that curse by implicating his 9 tribes. After killing all 873 members of the Fang clan, the number still could not match the number of the red snakes killed on that day so very long ago. Fang Xiaoru deliberately provoked King Yin again, even 10 tribes. So what? The king then had all of Fang Xiaoru's students put to death, and the Red Snake King finally got his revenge. In the ancient times, there was a prince who was very handsome, intelligent, and well-educated, and whose closest friend was a young man of equally excellent and outstanding virtues. Like Nose-like, the two would discuss state strategies, compose poems and couplets, and toast the moon together. They discussed everything under heaven and were very intimate. One day, they went out for fun and met a girl who was unspeakably beautiful, cultured and decent, well-versed in lyre playing, chess, calligraphy and painting, a matchless stunning beauty throughout the whole country. After a period of time, both the prince and the young man confessed their love to the girl, but in the end she chose the common young man rather than the prince. The prince fell into an abyss of depression and pain and went to see the most accomplished and eminent monk to ask him why this happened. The monk resorted to magic and presented the following view to the prince. On a beach, a beautiful naked woman laid motionless. A man came to the seaside and saw her. He approached her and placed his hand to her nose. Evidently, the woman was dead. He turned and walked away. A moment later, a second man arrived. He also saw the woman, and as the man before him had done, he examined to see whether she was alive, but she was indeed dead. He then removed his jacket, covered the woman, and went away. After a while, a third man came. After observing, he too realized that the woman was dead. He stopped and carried her on his back until he found a place at the beach to bury her. He also made a mark for her grave. The eminent monk then said, "The woman who you both love is the woman who died on the beach. The man who took his jacket off and covered her was you in a previous life, and she needed to repay your favor for a period of time in this one. But the man who buried her was your best friend, and she needed to return his favor for the rest of her life in the late Ming and early Qing dynasties. There was a man from Anhui named Hu Mingxuan. One day, his knees were attacked by impetigo, and he suffered a biting pain. As time went on, the impetigo grew worse as a person's face, with eyebrows, eyes, a nose, and a mouth appeared on it. Hu Mingxuan turned to 130 physicians who not only could not heal him, but actually made it much worse. On December 7, 1651, in a dreamy state, Hu Mingxuan faintly heard a voice coming from the impetigo on his knees. "I am Lu Xiaorong from the Liang dynasty of the Five Dynasties, 906 to 923. You killed me in the Luoyang Palace. Today I come to take revenge. How can physicians cure you? Confess your sins to Buddha, and perhaps you will be remedied." After Hu Mingxuan woke from the dream, he stopped seeking physicians for help and swore to confess and to copy the Buddhist sutras. At first, he could stand up with the support of a cane, then he could stand and walk. Eventually he healed without taking any medicine. After more than 700 years, the soul was still looking for his enemy for retaliation. In the time of Buddha Sakyamuni, an elderly man wanted to be a monk. It is important for a monk to have good spiritual roots, so Sakyamuni asked his arhats, disciples, to see if this person had good ones to decide whether he could be a monk. All the arhats shook their heads after seeing this man and agreed, no good roots. Arhats could only see 500 cycles of life and found that he had never had any relationship with Buddha during those 500 cycles, so he did not have good roots. Sakyamuni then examined the man and proclaimed, "In the beginningless time, he was a woodcutter. He came across a tiger in the mountain and was so scared that he climbed up a tree and cried out, 'Namo Buddha.' From his cry of 'Namo Buddha,' today his good roots appeared. Sakyamuni ordained him, and he later rose to become an arhat himself. In the Shu kingdom, there was a bully named Gua Jingzhang. One day, he was drunk and hit a poor man, Zhaoan, with a wine pot. The mouth of the pot smashed his head and killed him immediately. Guojingzhang gave Zhaoan's son a lot of money to help conceal the matter from the law. Soon afterward, Guojingzhang's head grew a sore about 3 to 4 centimeters deep like the one where the pot had hit Zhaoan. His bone was exposed. He bled and discharged a constant stream of pus, and he could occasionally see Zhaoan's face in it. The sore eventually penetrated into his throat and killed him. A scholar in the Yuan dynasty was seriously harmed by a friend. That night, he became enraged and determined to kill the man. He passed a temple on the way to his former friend's house, where an eminent monk stood at the gate. From his deva eyes, the monk saw that the scholar was tailed by a vicious demon. As the scholar arrived at the door of his intended victim's house, an idea struck him. He has turned from being my friend to my enemy, but his mother and wife did me no harm. If I kill him, they will both lose their means of life. After several rounds of inner struggling, he decided to forgive the man. forget the idea of killing him, and go away. On his way back, he passed the same temple where the same monk was still standing at the gate. But this time, the monk's deva eyes saw a completely different scene. The vicious demon which had tailed the scholar was gone, and he was escorted by angels above his head. The monk told the scholar what he had seen and asked him what happened. The scholar told his story truthfully, and the monk exclaimed that the demon and the gods were moved by just a thought. The idea of tolerance changed the scholar's fate. He later became an official, and the friend who had betrayed him died on a battlefield in a mountain village in Damiao Township in Chaoyang City, Liaoning Province. There lived a villager named Li Cheng. Li Cheng's grandmother had a relative named Zhang Qing who used to carry and sell fabrics for the Li family, but whose own family was very poor because he lost in everything he did throughout his life, and his family had been supported by Li Cheng until Zhang Qing died. Li Cheng even paid to have him buried. About 1 month afterward, Li Cheng was sleeping soundly in the middle of the night when he suddenly heard someone calling his name. Li Cheng, I am Zhang Qing. I am coming to pay my debt back to you. Li Cheng found it strange after he woke up 3 times in a row from his sleep. Just then, the house manager came to tell him, "Master, the big horse just gave birth to a colt." They knew that the colt was Zhang Qing reincarnated and named him that. Several years later, Li Cheng pulled a cart to Basi Jiazi and stayed in a postal station there. The next day, the local area was having a fair. In the morning, the horse went to the fair alone and stamped the earthen pots and utensils of a street vendor, leaving only 5 big basins intact. The vendor was very angry, and he gripped the horse to find justice. Li Cheng was informed that his horse had made trouble for him and went to the fair to apologize and promise to compensate the vendor for his losses. Li Cheng yelled, Zhang Qing, what is wrong with you today?" The vendor wondered why the horse was named Zhang Qing. Li Cheng told him about Zhang Qing's home and his reincarnation into the horse. The vendor said, "I knew Zhang Qing. I bought some fabrics while he was alive, and I still owe him money." He then calculated his losses from the daily wares, and the value was exactly what he owed to Zhang Qing. So the balance was even. They all understood why the 5 big basins were left untouched. Yuan Liaofan, the author of the 4 Lessons of Liaofan, in the 16th century was from Jiashan, Zhejiang. When he was young, a fortune teller predicted the good and bad fortunes to come in his life, including his rankings in the imperial examinations, his official titles, that he would not father a son, and when he would die. Later, many things were fulfilled accurately just as the fortune teller had predicted. Every day he became increasingly idle, knowing that his fate was predestined and that everything would come along automatically. Then he met Zen master Yungu, who told him, "Fate is created by the self and blessings are sought after by the self. Pursuing it in a correct way, attaining it, depends on your destiny." He began to understand that fate could be changed and became determined to amend his faults. He became tolerant of others' wrongdoings to him and committed to doing good with the greatest determination and perseverance. Surely enough, the original predictions lost accuracy after he decided to change his fate. Not only was he promoted to higher offices, but he also fathered 4 sons and survived a full 16 years longer than had been predicted.
缘的奥秘和真谛。
The Secret and Truth of Predestination 2. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. The 8 descriptions of predestination. A tie will not end until the debt is paid. Once a tie is formed, only its resolution can dismiss it, and with that, it shall end. Love and hate determine the depths of ties. Some ties are very shallow while others are very deep. The depth of a tie is decided by the degree of love and hate associated with it. The stronger the degree of love or hate, the deeper the tie is. The weaker they are, the shallower it is. Point 3. The short or long of the tie is determined by debts. Ties are essentially debt relationships. Debt relationships are not related to the amount of the debts as much as to the length of time involved. As long as there is owing, the tie is long. Once the debt is settled, the tie will end. Point 4. Mortals create ties, but Tao ends them. Both good and bad ties are created by mortals. Once a tie is created, it is controlled by the reward and punishment program of Tao and will eventually befall the person who created it. This is the so-called good will be rewarded with good, and evil will be punished with evil. If it is not repaid now, that is because the time has not yet come. Once the time comes, it will surely be repaid. Point 5. With neither shape nor form, but with shadows and traces. We can neither see nor touch a tie. It is a kind of non-material existence. It is like a time bomb. We do not know when it will explode. Perhaps in a couple of hours, or perhaps not for hundreds or thousands of years. But ties have shadows and traces. If we open Buddha eyes to trace them, we can find their origins. 6. The beginning and ending of a tie is but a thought. Once you get a tie, you will have to dismiss it in order to keep it from falling on you, and if you want to eliminate a part of the tie, you will have to do good, especially a hidden good, or formless almsgiving. Do evil not to a single thing, and do good to all things. Repentance, praying, giving alms, and selfless dedication are the best ways to eliminate ties, especially an evil tie on the halfway point. 7. Things arrive when ties arrive and things disappear when ties end. All coincidences and emergency events arise due to ties. The tie makes the meeting. When the tie ends, that is, when the equivalent debts are paid, the event will naturally end. When the tie ends, things will part. Point 8. Beginning or ending a tie depends on perception. Human life is a process of tying and untying. Everything is tied. Ties are the sea, and we are the fish swimming in it. Ties are like invisible, densely woven meshes over which people walk. Divine punishments are slow but sure, with big meshes yet letting nothing slip through. This divine mesh is the tie controlled by Tao. If people do not perceive this, then they cannot escape the divine mesh, and as a result they will rise and fall in the sea of ties and reincarnate until they do. This is how ties form and how they end. The 8 best ways to end worldly ties and form a celestial tie. 1. Praying and repenting, formless almsgiving. Praying and repenting in accordance with the teachings of Jesus Christ, attaining the great vehicle, and making formless almsgiving according to Buddha Shakyamuni's teaching are the ways to end all the evil ties, repay all the debts since the beginningless time, accumulate treasures in heaven, and go directly to the Elysium world, the kingdom of the greatest creator. Point 2. Associating with others by following predestined relationships, swallowing humiliation, and bearing heavy loads. The ties that we formed since beginningless time will come in succession. To this end, we need to associate with others by following our predestined relationships and resolve them in succession. Whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him also the left one, because it is the result of an ill tie. If you do not allow them to smite you, then the ill tie will not end, but will recur in another form in the future. If others scold you, bully you, insult you, or trample upon you, be they relatives, friends, or strangers, then you must accept it with delight and with neither anger nor resentment. Pray for and bless your enemy. 3. Doing evil not to a single thing, doing good to all things, regardless of what dilemma or situation you find yourself in. You should have only good thoughts, good words, good expressions, and good deeds, never evil ones. Just praise all others and speak not one bad word against any others. However you speak, it must be active, positive, and optimistic, never passive, negative, or pessimistic. Try your best to bring happiness and joy to people rather than distress and sadness. You should not only treat people this way, but all life and all nature. Point 4. Always giving, never taking. The guiding principle of the universe is that the sum of positive and negative energy is always zero. Losses and gains are always equal. What one gains and loses always balance out. If you lose, you will certainly gain. If you gain, you will certainly lose, so never think that someone owes you, but remind yourself what you owe others. If others bully us, it is because we owe them and it is time to pay them back. If others owe us, be it emotional debt or financial debt, do not ask for it, because it will be returned in one way or another. Perhaps in this life, perhaps in the afterlife, perhaps from the head, perhaps from the toe. All in all, the law of the sum of negative and positive energy always is zero will work. We just give and leave the taking to Tao. Point 5. being apart from the mortal world and avoiding mundane entanglements. Living in the mortal world is to inevitably contact a variety of mortals and deities. But remember that in no case must you ever take advantage of others, not even those closest to you, your parents, children, husband, or wife. In all the universe, heaven and earth, there are no advantages to be had. Whatever advantages you think you have taken are harmful because you will bear losses to balance them out, especially when you are dealing with ignorant persons, deities, mortals, sages, let alone the public. If you take gains from beasts and birds, then your nature will be harmed. If you crave gains from people, then you will bear losses from the Tao of heaven. The hard truth is that if you are not corrupt, do not take advantages nor owe debts, then you are staying away from the mortal world and are free from the ties of mundane entanglements. One particularly important thing is that love and sex must always be completely consensual from both sides and totally free from luring or forcing, or such a mundane entanglement will be as difficult to end as cotton or silk. Point 6. Pursuing celestial beings and worshipping Buddha builds good ties. Celestial beings are in the celestial world. Buddha is in the Buddhist world. Both are good places to be. Building relationships with celestial beings and Buddha gives you hope to exit from samsara and go straight to the realm of freedom. The actual manifestation of spiritual wisdom is giving advantages and benefits to all life in the lower level life space and owing them nothing, building relationships with life of the higher level life space, emulating celestial beings, and worshipping Buddha whenever and wherever you see them. It is always best to have celestial being or Buddha something to you. Point 7. Forgiving the wrong and severing its attraction. We should forgive all those who have ever harmed our life since the beginningless time and stop asking them to repay us. This is the way to completely sever our ties with them and develop no new ones, which can let the attraction of life in the lower level life space completely disappear from us so that we can ascend to heaven and become an immortal. Point 8. Revering the greatest creator and taking the way of the greatest creator. This is the heart and core to end worldly ties and form a celestial tie. Also the top and best way to achieve a state of oneness with man and nature and Tao, as well as to go to the Elysium world. Everything that Life Changyuan does is centered on taking the way of the greatest creator. If you want to understand this more deeply, then you will have to read and understand the meanings of Changyuan Corpus and Xiefeng Corpus, enter the new oasis for life, and serve for the Life Changyuan era. Conclusion. All forms and things in the universe develop and change as the result of predestination. When predestination exists, then forms, matter, and things exist. When predestination ends, then forms, matter, and things end. Good ties bear good fruit and bad ties bear bad fruit. Mundane entanglements fall into the mortal world, but affinity with Buddha goes to the Elysium world. This truth must be understood. Those who understand the secrets and the truth are celestial beings and Buddha. Those who do not are mortal beings.
现实与虚幻的辩证关系。
The dialectical relationship between reality and illusion. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. Reality is real in name only. Illusions are illusory in name only. Reality is illusory and material. Illusions are real and non-material. The material world is the presentation of the non-material world. The non-material world is the foundation of the material world. Reality is like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, and a shadow, as dew and lightning, thus should you meditate upon them. Every illusion is real and true, is where the real spirit and soul dwell, and where the great universe is. Consciousness is illusory, but reality is the reflection and projection of consciousness. The consciousness determines the state of life's existence. Wishes are illusory, yet they lead to reality. Ideals are illusory, yet they accomplish life's reality. Visualized prospects are illusory, but according to the principle of visualized thinking, it is they that determine the future. Love is illusory, but it can inject huge spirit and soul energy into people. Heaven is illusory, but we all want to go there. As long as we dream of heaven, we will be able to overcome the hardships of life's journeys and lead optimistic and positive lives. Dreams are illusory, but when we are in dream worlds, The illusions look very real. We think of our day-to-day lives as being real because everything in them seems very real and true. But what is the difference between the truth of reality and the truth of dreams? One day, when we finally leave this real world and wake up in another illusory world, we will find out that life is only a dream, an illusion. What are illusions? What is reality? The bygone is like mist and smoke, like a dream or a fantasy. The future truth is illusory and looming. To walk slowly or quickly, there are many roads to take in life. To take with good means or bad, in the end, it is all empty. The wilderness where foxes sleep and hares walk was once a dance hall. The bleak and desolate field where flowers and grass grow was once a battlefield. The bygone realness now becomes illusory, and the illusion of the future will evolve into reality. Reality comes from illusions and will return to illusions. Illusions originate from truth and will become reality. Everything is but a game. Only the soul is true. Reality is a game. Those who obsess with reality and are trapped in it are confused. Those who take delight and fun in it are awakened. It makes no sense to try to hold on to the reality of a dream. The real life is to play the games. The contents of them are determined by illusory consciousnesses. Illusory consciousnesses are determined by souls. Souls are real, but nature is life and a characteristic of structure. Structure determines nature. Therefore, the non-material structure of life is ultimately, absolutely real. However, reality and illusion are dialectical. Real structures give rise to illusory consciousnesses. Illusory consciousnesses in turn produce real structures. Therefore, our top priority should be to concentrate our efforts on the illusory consciousness of life. The type of illusory consciousness decides the future reality of life. Illusions become realities and realities become unreal. If you have a beast's illusory consciousness, then you will eventually live in a beast's reality. If you have a celestial being's illusory consciousness, then you will eventually live in the celestial world. Once you understand the dialectical relationship between reality and illusions, you should not be lost in reality. Consume your time and energy on things there, cling to and worry about them, seize, possess, compete for, or persist after them. You should take reality as a stage in a game and play it to its fullest. As long as you get happiness, joy, freedom, and blessing, then your life is successful, wise, and full. To own nothing is to have everything. Not to act is to act. Hold fast to illusions, and you can have reality. Having reality is, after all, an illusion. Life is a journey. The more things that you possess in reality, the more misery you will have, and the more pathetic you will become because your life will all be a tragedy. The more illusory things that you possess, the happier and more affluent you will be because your life will ultimately become a comedy.
宇宙八大辩证法
The 8 Dialectics of the Universe. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Kair. Taiji thinking teaches us that everything in the universe comes from the unity of opposites and the symmetry of yin and yang. Opposing sides exist in the same unity. One is the condition for the other and disappears when the other does. Within a certain range, one flourishes as the other declines. Extremes meet and things develop in opposite directions when they become extreme. For example, know the male, but conform to the female. Sages put themselves last but find themselves in front. They regard their bodies as accidental and are thereby preserved. Life is the root of death and death is the root of life. Yin and yang are the roots of each other. To yield is to be preserved whole. To be bent is to become straight. To be hollow is to be filled. To be tattered is to be renewed. The growth and decline, the generating, sustaining, destroying, and changing of any two opposites are dialectical. There are 8 dialectics in the universe. Form is emptiness and emptiness is form. When things exhaust, they revive. When they end, they begin anew. The small can grow big. Details matter. Life and death are the roots of each other. Yin flourishes when yang declines. To have nothing is to have everything. To have everything is to have nothing. Where the mind abides nowhere, nature prevails. Where the mind abides somewhere, nature recedes. Stillness and motion coexist. Light and dark are interdependent. Positive and negative are symmetrical, but proportion restrains. Form is emptiness and emptiness is form. The three elements of the universe are consciousness, structure, and energy. They are all non-material. The existence of any single element is emptiness. See it, and you will not see its form. Hear it, and you will not hear its trace. Meet it, and you will not know its face. Follow it, and you will not find its back. Once the three join together, though, there is lustrous and dazzling form, changing countlessly and into a myriad of images. Therefore, form comes from emptiness and emptiness is form. When emptiness comes, there is form, because form is emptiness. If a mind abides in form, it is in emptiness. If a mind abides in emptiness, it is in form. You pursue form, but form is never there. You pursue emptiness, and you get form. Pursuing form results in emptiness. Pursuing emptiness results in form. When things exhaust, they revive. When they end, they begin anew. Extremes meet. Things develop in opposite directions when they become extreme. When you reach your peak, you go downhill. Extreme happiness leads to sorrow, and extreme sorrow leads to happiness. Extreme yin is yang, and extreme yang is yin. The softest becomes the hardest, and the hardest becomes the softest. There is a time to rise and a time to fall. When a thing reaches its prime, it will be old and will revive. The end of the infinitely big is the infinitesimally small, and the end of infinitesimally small is the infinitely big. When something saturates, a qualitative change happens in it. Things change at critical points and new substances are produced. Extreme beauty leads to ugliness, and extreme ugliness leads to beauty. Extreme goodness forms evil, and extreme evil forms goodness. That is, great virtue is no virtue, and great benevolence is heartless. Haste makes waste. One who understands Tao appears dull of comprehension, and one who advances in Tao appears to slip backwards. To pursue happiness, you must avoid extremes. To revive, go for the extreme. The small can grow big. Details matter. Matter is composed of molecules, composed of atoms. A tree with a full span's girth begins from a tiny sprout. A 9-storied terrace begins with a clod of earth. From small beginnings, one can see how things will develop and grow. Difficulties are overcome by easy things. Great things are accomplished by the details. Details matter. Deal with the big while it is yet small. Deal with the difficult while it is yet easy. Start from the beginning and start from the small, but do not lose track of the big picture. Molehills make mountains. Do not neglect small things, or you will never accomplish big things. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Any future success depends on the present. Small details and tiny things lead to grand achievements. Life and death are the roots of each other. Yin flourishes when yang declines. Life is the root of death, and death is the root of life. No life, no death, no death, no life. Life and death alternate, and each follows the other. Yang flourishes when yin declines, and yin flourishes when yang declines. Every moment of every day has birth and death. One dies here, but is born there. Hard is born as soft dies. Good is born as evil dies. One departs from the mortal world and is born into the celestial world. A human heart dies, and the heart of a celestial being is born. If you keep the old, you will get nothing new. If you are selfish, you will never reach the Elysium world. Out of life, death enters. Those who are not afraid of death will live. The created universe carries yin at its back and yang in front, and vice versa. Seek life, and you will die. Seek death, and you will live. To have nothing is to have everything. To have everything is to have nothing. Out of nothing, there is something. The less you possess, the more you have. The more you possess, the less you have. When you possess nothing, you can have everything. When you have everything, you can possess nothing. The more you have, the more emptiness you feel, the more illusory it is, and the more real it is. Walk into the spiritual Pure Land, and you will see a wonderful world. Pursue wealth, power, and lust, and you will have endless troubles. Being and non-being interconnect in growth. If you want to have something in heaven, give it up in the mortal world. To have nothing is to have everything. By the existence of things, we profit, and by the non-existence of things, we are served. Work on non-existence for existence. Where the mind abides nowhere, nature prevails. Where the mind abides somewhere, nature recedes. Nature is the quality of origin, which is Buddha. The reason that people cannot attain Buddhahood is that their minds abide somewhere. If their minds abided nowhere, they would attain Buddhahood. When one's mind abides nowhere, nature shows. When their mind abides somewhere, nature recedes. This is dialectical. One advances as the other retreats. Different forms give birth to different souls. When minds abide somewhere, trouble comes. Therefore, if your mind abides somewhere, it will be in falsehood. It should not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharma. It should abide nowhere. When the mind abides nowhere, it can abide everywhere. And when the soul can transcend over all forms and show the nature, one can reach the Elysium world. He who focuses too much on the specific cannot see the general. A mind that abides somewhere cannot go to the Elysium world. One who acquire enlightenment can perceive nature. One who lack mind can show nature. Stillness and motion coexist. Light and dark are interdependent. Stillness is the source of motion. It cannot be dynamic if it is not static. Motion is the root of stillness. It cannot be static if it is not dynamic. Stillness and motion coexist and come from each other. Strong motion comes from great stillness. Great stillness comes from strong motion. All things derive from stillness but are accomplished in motion. Without stillness, there is no motion. Without motion, there are no accomplishments. Light comes out of darkness and darkness comes from light. Heaven and hell, one light and the other dark. Extreme darkness is light and extreme light is darkness. Fortune and adversity go together. Out of waste grows grass. Bliss is unfelt until after it leaves. Good fortune lies within bad. Bad fortune lurks within good. Non-interference with natural rules and letting all things happen naturally. Those who act at the wrong times spoil things. One should never fear the dark. Out of extreme darkness comes light. Knowing the dialectic of the universe, one can enjoy the light cautiously, for from extreme light comes darkness. Positive and negative are symmetrical, but proportion restrains. Those who differ from the crowd will be slandered. An outstanding tree in the forest will be destroyed by wind. Those who enjoy great fame will be envied, but those who are most favored will be slandered. 36-dimensional space is arranged symmetrically. The forces of action and reaction are equal but in opposition. All things reinforce and neutralize each other mutually. There is always one thing to overcome the other. There is heaven and there is hell. All things develop in proportion. Chaos and the early devastation were the results of imbalance. Boundless avarice leads to disaster. Conform to nature and give up inordinate ambitions. Understand that everything has two sides and that perfection is unattainable. Rivers run into the sea, so you can never drink them all. Tao is the theory of yin and yang. Maintaining a balance between the two is rational. Knowing the dialectic principle is wise, and complying with the laws of nature can be regarded as virtue.
如何解脱生死？
How to liberate yourself from life and death. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. The subtlety of liberating oneself from life and death in The Treasury of the True Dharma Eye is that Buddha Sakyamuni had held a flower in his hand as he smiled in the Lingshan Mountain Assembly. Only his first disciple, Mahakassapa, understood why and gave a faint smile. Buddha said, "I possess the true Dharma Eye, the marvelous mind of nirvana, the true form of the formless, and the subtle Dharma gate that does not rest on words or letters, but is a special understanding outside of the scriptures." Mahakassapa later explained his understanding directly to Ananda, who gave it to Shanavasa, and all the way to Bodhidharma, the 20th patriarch of Buddhism. When the 27th patriarch, Prajnatara, gave it along with a robe and begging bowl to Bodhidharma, he said, 60 years after I attain nirvana, I want you to take these 3 things from India to China and carry Buddhism forward to benefit all living people. Bodhidharma took Zen Buddhism to China and was regarded as the first Chinese Zen Buddhist patriarch. He eventually passed them to Haik, the 2nd patriarch, who passed them to Sankhan, the 3rd patriarch, then to Daoxin, the 4th patriarch, and to Hongrun, the 5th patriarch. When Master Hongrun told about them, He was met with some trouble because he found that the real successor should be the unknown handyman Huaining in the monastery instead of the highly reputed and admirable Professor Master Shinshio. It would be very unconvincing to all if everything passed directly to Huaining. In a desperate way, he said, "The lives and deaths of mortals are matters of huge importance, but you only pursue the land of promise without seeking to be away from the bitter sea of life and death. If you lose your nature, then how can blessings bring you salvation? Both of you, write me a stanza. He who understands what the essence of mind is will be given the robe, the insignia of the patriarchate, and the Dharma, the ultimate teaching of the Zen school. And I shall make him the sixth patriarch." With a small trick, he finally gave his treasures to Master Huaining. Master Huaining was the sixth and final patriarch of Zen. The treasury of the true Dharma eye and the robe and begging bowl were lost after him. I used to joke that I am the seventh patriarch of Zen, and that I have written on Zen by the seventh patriarch of Zen 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which are the most heavily weighted 5 articles of all my writings. Now the question, as instructed in Buddha's treasury of the true Dharma eye, this subtle Dharma gate, does not rest on words or letters, but is a special message outside of the scriptures, becomes how to transfer from mind to mind. If I were to tell it with words, then I would be rebelling against the teachings of Buddha. So, if not expressing with words, how can we know how to liberate ourselves from the samsara of life and death? To make the best of both worlds, I can only slide over the water. Whether you can be liberated from life and death all depends on your level of practicing Tao, your destiny, and your root of wisdom. There is no life or death in life. The life and death seen by the world is an illusion. It is the evolved deduction of the carrier of life. Life has nothing to do with time. So life has no limitations of time and is beyond all ages. The nature of life is non-material structure. The form rendered by life is decided by its non-material structure. Its non-material structure decides the form rendered by it. Consciousness originates from structure and in turn controls structure. Human consciousnesses make people, animal consciousnesses make animals, and if you develop your consciousness to that of a celestial beings or a Buddha, then you will become a celestial being or a Buddha. Life is a cycle of reincarnations. The death we commonly see is not the death of life itself, but the phenomenon of life transformation. Life travels from one dimension into another, from one world into another, through the gate of life and death. When a life crosses that gate, from this field, we see it as is death, but from the other field, it is life. All dharmas are marked with emptiness. They neither begin nor end, are neither immaculate nor defiled, and neither complete nor deficient. Therefore, in emptiness there are neither forms, feelings, perceptions, impulses, nor consciousness. Neither eyes, ears, noses, tongues, bodies, or minds. Neither sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touchables, or any sensations, and so on until we have form. There are no mind consciousness elements, no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, until we have form. There is no decay and death, no extinction of decay and death, no suffering, no origination, no stopping, no path, no cognition, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, it is because of their non-attainmentness that bodhisattvas, through having relied on the perfection of wisdom, dwell without thought coverings. In the absence of thought coverings, they have not been made to tremble, have overcome what can upset, and in the end, have attained nirvana, to be free from life and death. When you are liberated from life and death, you can attain nirvana. If you understand the truth above, then you can be liberated from the samsara of life and death. The problem is that as mortals, we have fleshy eyes and mortal stocks. As we cannot see higher dimensional space and worlds, we are not fully convinced of the above truths. Then what? It is easy. Follow the guide and verify, step by step. What are those things that hinder us from liberating from the samsara of life and death? The answers are greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, and suspicion. Greed is the want to always possess more out of self-interest. Anger is to detest, blame, and envy. Ignorance is the belief that you are always right and never wrong. Arrogance is self-importance, pretentiousness, disdain, defiance, and the lack of a gracious, cherishing heart. Suspicion is being full of doubts and not facing the facts. It is hypocritical, false, and self-deceiving. Overcoming greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, and suspicion will enable you to understand this truth and will liberate you from the samsara of life and death. The reason is very simple and easy to do, but putting it into real practice is difficult. After being liberated from life and death, one also needs to understand where to go after death. If you are heading to the lower world, then you will be miserable.
宇宙全息一
Cosmic Holography I. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. The universe runs in holographic order and consists of the distributed psychic energy of the greatest creator, Tao, just as we humans are composed of the flesh and spirit of the same. From the infinitely cosmic to the infinitesimally tiny, each are closely related and connected together. I am in you, and you are in me. On the macro scale, energy fills the space and time of the entire universe, while Tao controls the operation, development, and changes of all things and within it. Therefore, it is an organic whole, and the seemingly unconnected multiple celestial bodies, phenomena, and people are its constituent parts, its cells, so the universe is holographic. On the micro scale, atoms, molecules, and people are consortiums of structure and energy which have mutual interaction with everything else and together belong to the unity of Tao and energy. So the universe is holographic. Try to pierce your toe with a needle. You will feel muscles tightening throughout your body, and your brain will jump with an immediate emergency response. If a lover or your parents are next to you, they will also react promptly. Why? Because you are holographic. Turn your computer on and access the web. Global data will stream onto your screen as you search. Why? Because the internet is holographic. Arthritis sufferers can sense rain while the weather is still dry, and many animals can detect seismic disturbances before the earth shakes. Why? Because the earth is holographic. The waning and waxing of the moon raises and lowers the tides, and sunspots directly affect climatic changes and the rhythms of life on the earth. Why? Because the solar system is holographic. Cosmic holography also means that the whole contains all of its parts, and all of its parts contain the whole. Our bodies are constituted of 130 trillion cells, and each of them contain all the information of the human body. That is, when they all assemble together, they constitute a complete human individual. Each cell is just an insignificant component, but when we divide them individually, each one can form a human body. Viewing them with Buddha's eyes, each of them is a complete human body with 5 senses, 7 holes, bones, hair, internal organs, 4 limbs, flesh, skin, and so forth. If we split a single cell, we will find that this inconceivable cell is made up of an equal number of even more inconceivable ones. Our complete image can be seen in a mirror, but if we break that mirror in half, then each half will reflect our complete image. That is, we will have 2 images. Break it in half again, and we will have 4 identical images, and so on. If we break this mirror into millions, billions, or even trillions of pieces, we will still see our complete image in each and every one of them. The number of potential images is countless. Even if a seed has not been planted in soil to take root, sprout, blossom, and bear fruit, its whole entity, the shape of its leaves, growth patterns, and so on can be seen with Dharma eyes. We cannot see the shape of a bud if we do not know what type it is, and without referring to its blade with naked eyes, and we will not know how big it will grow, but we can see its size and shape by looking at it holographically. If you cut a growing leaf in half, then its whole image will be visible from the remaining half, and you can see its entirety from either half. All things are like this because the universe is holographic. Now that we know that the universe is holographic, our worldview and outlook on life will take a subversive leap. If we want to understand the Tao of Lao Tzu, the Dharma of Sakyamuni, and the thinking and scientific theory of Jesus, we will understand it thoroughly and at a glance, and our spiritual perception will open. Those with deeper roots can develop a series of special magical powers and arts and will feel at ease in dealing with the affairs of their daily lives. For example, one big distress in life is the love between men and women. Between lovers and married couples, one always expects the other to be faithful and pure, but if they learn that the other is having a secret relationship with a third party, then they become distressed and sad, and no matter how much effort the other exerts to vindicate themselves, "I love you just as much, I really do," it will be useless, because their credibility will have been lost. "You cannot be true to me if you also love that person, and your love is false and the love that you offer me is incomplete," would be the responses. Their distress is caused by not understanding the holographic nature of the universe. From the holographic universe perspective, if someone loves several people, even hundreds, thousands, millions, or billions of people, their love for each of them can be complete, true, and absolutely complete. It is like seeing oneself in a mirror. There is one self in one mirror, two selves in two mirrors, and a billion selves in a billion mirrors, but each is complete. Buddha can incarnate and rescue trillions because Buddha knows that the universe is holographic and Buddha is holographic. Conversely, if I am loved by 10,000 women, even if they also love other men, but I believe that their love for me is wholehearted and complete, then I will gladly accept their love. Likewise, if I love 10,000 women, then my love for each of them can still be true and complete. Why should you have to cling on to just one? Life is short. Does it matter if you love more than one? Other truths can be inferred accordingly. In short, oneness of man and nature, universal holography, subtle wisdom, and depth of understanding reincarnate into trillions.
宇宙全息二
Cosmic Holography II. Xiefeng. November 3rd, 2005. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Cosmic holography means that the universe really is alive, that everything in the universe shares the same breath and destiny, and that any local change, directly or indirectly, affects its entirety. A storm on Mars can cause colds on Earth, the death of a whale in the Pacific Ocean can cause grief in Nile River fish, and a butterfly flapping its wings in Alaska can cause a storm in the Cape of Good Hope. This is an extreme and exaggerated expression, but it conforms to theory of cosmic holography. An article by Xiefeng will inspire the awakening of human consciousness as a whole. This is an extremely exaggerated expression, but it conforms to theory of cosmic holography. The purpose of understanding things is not only to appreciate them, but also to use them to serve us and to maximize our freedom. Taking the way of the greatest creator is not for suffering or enduring hardship, but to maximize our enjoyment of life, and to obtain more joy, pleasure, and happiness. To understand cosmic holography is not only to enrich our own knowledge, because gaining knowledge is not our purpose, but to apply it to serve ourselves and others. How can we make the knowledge of cosmic holography help us to navigate through life? Since the universe is holographic, the greatest creator, gods, and Buddha are all in us because we are the cells of each of them. A cell contains all the information about the universe as a whole, and in the same way, devils also live within us. When our hearts are filled with love for all lives in the universe, then we have the character of the greatest creator. And when we show mercy to all lives, then we have the character of God and Buddha. But when our hearts are filled with hatred, weighing and balancing everything for our own self-interests, then we take on the character of devils. Since the universe is holographic and each cell contains the information of the whole, then by understanding and appreciating ourselves, we can know all the mysteries of the universe, sense future changes and trends of the universe, and acquire information about the universe's past, all from our own present. Since the universe is holographic, it shows that our memories exist not only in our brains, but also in each cell of our whole bodies, and even in the space and time of the entire universe. Our brains are just sensors, and through it, we can extract records from hundreds, thousands, even millions of years. We can not only trace our own history over the past millennia, but maybe even recall the historical process of the evolution of the universe. Whether 2a Bay 2, less prophecies, divination before saddle horses, Mayan or Martian prophecy, Tibetan remote sensing prophecy, revelations, or any other prophetic manuscript, they are all evidence of cosmic holography. They prove that people are able to accurately predict the future as well as to recall images after several years, decades, and even centuries. Since the universe is holographic, we humans are able to see the entirety of the universe, to see the Milky Way system and the planets that exist outside of it, and to picture the images of the thousand-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Elysium world. 36-dimensional space is no longer mysterious and incomprehensible. When a small thorn is placed on one's toe, their brain will feel it instantly and react accordingly. Similarly, everyone's words and deeds are sensed instantly by the greatest creator and also reacted to immediately, which means that you reap what you sow, good will be rewarded with good and evil will be punished with evil, and that causation is the iron law of the universe. So we can believe firmly that we will receive the proper return for our self-refinery and self-cultivation. The dream world is the symbol of holography, which proves that we live in other spaces at the same time, and that we are just a fragment of the holography of this moment. Based on how we feel and express ourselves in reality, we can know where our other self or selves live. If one has Buddha nature, then their negative self is in the Elysium world. If one is cultivating themselves to become a celestial being, then their negative self is in the Celestial Islands continent or the 10,000-year world. If one yearns for a free, joyous, and blessed life without family relationships, then their negative self is in the 1,000-year world. If one has deep love for the human world, then their negative self is elsewhere within the mortal world. If one enjoys fighting, striving, robbing, and seizing, or the law of jungles, then their negative self is in the animal world. If one enjoys dark and selfish activities, then their negative self is in hell. In A Brief History of Time, the great scientist Stephen Hawking realized that there is an anti-universe with anti-humans, and quantum mechanics vaguely detects antiparticles. For particles and antiparticles, however far apart they are, they seem to connect, and they can respond to each other and interact instantly. Therefore, we can infer that every Chanyuan celestial's negative ego, or anti-ego, is in heaven. What we need to do now is improve our consciousness, bring it into closer alignment with heaven, and return to our home. That is to say, to leave our mortal consciousness and let our subconsciousness return to its source. Since the universe is holographic, we are not afraid of death. As long as consciousness exists, we can incarnate trillions of times and project ourselves into boundless worlds. I am the universe is me, so we can attain Buddhahood. With regard to this cosmic holography theory, I put forward the above 8 aspects as a starting point. I cast a brick to attract jade. However, we can draw 80 or even 800 more examples. From a sample, you may judge the whole, make efforts to draw an analogy based on a theory, let the fire of inspiration twinkle everywhere and always, and grasp the secrets of life as early as possible. For years upon years, after days and nights with sunrises and sunsets, people have been living so, back and forth. Is this the time to change to a new lifestyle? If not, there will be no end to our troubles and suffering.
时间的秘密
The Secret of Time. Xiefeng, January 5, 2006. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. Eternity is long, very long. It runs endlessly. Beginning, developing, changing, and concluding is ornamented by the waves of time. The universe flies in eons. Life twists and turns in years. Love and hate rise and fall in summer and winter. Feelings of gratitude and resentment emerge and disappear in spring and autumn. Time, mysterious time, the wonderful experience of bringing forth the new from the old, drowning the vicissitudes of transitional times, transforming hope into despair, and turning solids into gas and smoke. Life rises and falls in time. It goes up and down in time. Time, what exactly is time? It is the recorder of material cycles. It begins with the creation of matter and ends with its demise. It has these 8 characteristics. Time is non-material. It is untraceable, formless, stateless, shapeless, heartless, senseless, invisible, untouchable, and can neither be heard nor caught. Time is positive and negative. Future time is positive. Past time is negative. Time is particular and universal. Its particularity applies to the specific. Its universality applies to the general. Time is variable. It progresses unevenly. It changes as physical movement changes and disappears as physical movement disappears. Time exists throughout all physical space. It is as big as the universe and as small as particles. Where there is matter, there is time. Time is vertical and horizontal. It manifests itself vertically as the past, present, and future, and horizontally as momentary and eternal. Time has different meanings under different forces. It changes as gravity and acceleration change, but has the same meaning under the same forces. Time expands, contracts, and disappears. The quality, shape, and motion of matter cause it to contract or expand with changes in any of those. When matter disappears, time disappears. There is no time in the non-material world. Non-matter is a reaction to matter but does not share any of its properties. All matter proceeds through generation, development, decline, and death, but non-matter has neither life nor death, so it has no time and is eternal. Tao, life's spiritual entity, ideas, spirits, thoughts, dharmas, the nature of Tathagata, celestial beings, angels, and the Elysium world do not have time. Therefore, the non-material world is eternal. Since the motion of matter is absolute, we perceive that all things run in time. In this sense, time changes everything and decides all. It can transform the decadent into magic and the ordinary into extraordinary. Everything changes with the passage of time. Along the eternal river of time, all matter is transitional, illusory, and valueless. Time's control must end in order for one to achieve an eternal existence. As humans, it is to fish for the moon in water or to plow the air for our bodies to break away from our shackles, so the human body must follow its nature. To leave time, we must work on our spiritual entities. Life is short, and the spiritual entity of life has many different directions in which to spread. Perfect spiritual entities go to heaven and defective ones go to hell. If we can perfect our spiritual entities within our limited lifetimes, then we can transcend time. In addition to transcending time, we must also work on our non-matter by revering and taking the way of the greatest creator. To roam in ideas, thinking, spirits, and other areas is to deal with eternity and to transcend time maximally and from within the confines of a limited time. When fruits ripen, they fall. When water flows, channels form. Once we make this breakthrough, we can enter horizontal space and time and immediately feel fresh and enchanted. Please refer to Time and Space of the Universe for further study.
人间剧本探秘
Explore the Script of Life. Xiefeng, March 24, 2017. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Is life dominated by fate? How does fate come into being? Is everything in life prearranged? If it is, then who arranged and directs it, and how can we still have free will? If there is free will, does it conflict with fate? If there is no free will, then does the causality law of you reap what you sow exist, or does it not? Is it true that every word and every act of everyone is prearranged? If so, then are we not biological robots? Is everything accidental or inevitable? Who carries out punishments, rewards, and so on? It is an extremely complex and enormous system, and it is impossible to reveal the whole system clearly. I can only draw a rough outline, and you, the reader, must verify it for yourself. 18 plots cannot be controlled by people in their own lives, but have to be resigned to destiny. For example, their own parents cannot be chosen, arranged, or controlled by them. In fact, a lot of things in life cannot be either. Not only are the sizes of our eyes uncontrollable, but we cannot even arrange a single hair by ourselves. In the face of such vast complexities, we have to resign ourselves to destiny. If we cannot change things, then what can we do? Everything in the universe has its trajectory, all of which are run according to a well-arranged overall trajectory, and we are no exception. That is to say, we also have our trajectories. These trajectories determine the directions of people's lives, whether they will be officials or commoners, poor or rich, or male or female, and be subject to fortune or misfortune. Everything and everyone have been determined by their trajectory. Facing our trajectory, we are powerless. Who is writing your life script and arranging your trajectory of life? You are. Who is directing it? It is procedure. Everything in this life is established by the thoughts and actions of your previous life. This is fate. It is impossible to change the fate of your life because it has already been written. All of your efforts in this life only work for your next life. It can be said that your past determines your present, and your present determines your future. Since everything has already been arranged and planned out, and the story and plot of your life has already been set, then how do we reflect on man's subjective initiative? What good are an individual's efforts? If even what we say and do have been determined in advance, then why should we make any efforts? Individual efforts are reflected in one's mind and how perfect a role they play. Our inner activities are not arranged by our script. Our free will is reflected in our mind, and whether our specific role is performed perfectly or not. Such as in a stage play, the script has been arranged by a writer in advance. The director selects performers according to each performer's appearance, character, acting skill, and so on. The performers must act strictly according to the script and plot and the director's requirement. If done well, the director will be pleased and the actors will receive more pay and have more chances to perform in future plays. If done poorly, the director will not be pleased and their opportunity for future castings will diminish. The quality of their performance depends on them. This is individual effort. Our inner activities are not arranged, nor are they destined. They rely completely on the free will and effort of the individual. It is entirely up to them to decide whether they want to have good or evil thoughts. Our inner activity is our thinking activity. Thinking activity is like a wave that spreads throughout the universe. That is, when the mind moves, its inner activity expands out to the universe and tells the universe what it is doing, and very loudly. Regarding this, we are unable to view or receive it, but God's know it. In other words, everyone's inner activities can be learned instantly by the universe and recorded in the procedure of Tao. The procedure of Tao automatically arranges the future fate and trajectory of everyone's life based on their inner activities. Karma, karma, karma. Then who rewards and punishes and who executes the mechanisms of rewarding and punishing? Rewarding and punishing are determined by the procedure of Tao, but it is only the judge. The executor is neither the procedure of Tao nor the judge, but a factor of the boundless universe, a god or man, a dog, an ant, a storm, or an event. It is like a judge who sentences someone to death but never executes anyone personally. That is always left for a series of other people. The script of this life has been set long ago, but the script of the next life is always changing. People's thoughts and actions in this life identify their future life trajectories. If someone is destined to leave for the Celestial Islands continent but becomes seized by evil and does not play their current role well, then their trajectory of life to the Celestial Islands continent will change. Their revised trajectory may devolve toward the 10,000-year world, the 1,000-year world, back to the mortal world, or even to the animal world or to hell depending on the severity of what they do. As Life Changyuan's guide, I sigh with deep emotion during my directing the scripts of Changyuan Celestials. For instance, I planned to have a certain individual eat a fairy peach which had been determined by her trajectory of life. However, she failed to play her role as a Changyuan Celestial well in her course. I asked her to clean a toilet, but she failed to clean it thoroughly, so I knew that she was still unable to eat the fairy peach, but only wild peaches. In this way, both her fate and her trajectory of life were changed. It is a strict law that absolutely beautiful things can only be enjoyed by absolutely beautiful lives. If we do not reach an absolutely beautiful state, then absolutely beautiful results will never appear. When we enjoy absolutely beautiful things but our personal quality declines, then those absolutely beautiful things automatically disappear. This is not only the law and the script plot, but also the ever-changing living script. Past scripts are dead, future ones are alive, and living ones are always changing according to everyone's inner activities and how well or poorly they perform. The impartiality of Tao is reflected in Tao gives to every life according to its desires. If you desire blessings in this life, Tao will bestow them upon you, but fewer will remain for your next life. If you want to become a wolf, it will make you one in your next script. If you want to become a celestial being, it will make you one. Tao will surely satisfy you and help you to achieve your goal, whatever you want to be, but it must be understood that the fulfillment of Tao is not executed immediately. It is arranged in the script, it takes a process, and it takes time. You cannot expect an airplane to come the moment you ask for it. You need to be patient. It is crucial to remember that as your plane is coming, your needs cannot change. Once there is a change, Tao has to follow your needs. If you want coffee, but then decide that you would prefer tea, Tao will immediately prepare tea for you. If the tea has not yet arrived and you decide that you would prefer Coca-Cola, Tao will prepare Coca-Cola for you right away. When you change again, Tao will change again. In short, it will always satisfy you. Now, here is a core consideration. If you want a luxury car worth $1 million, Tao will check your bank account, your merits and virtues. If they are insufficient and your bank deposits are not enough, then that $1 million limousine will not be offered to you. Even if you need a needle, you have to check your bank deposits. As long as you have enough merits and virtues, enough bank deposits for what you want, Tao will meet your requirements and demands, or help you to achieve your goal. When a person runs out of bank deposits, or when their merits and virtues are exhausted and they have no remaining blessings, then they will soon collapse, fail, lose everything, go to prison, or end this life. Therefore, we need to give benefits, accumulate merits and virtues, and cherish good fortune during our lifetimes so that our blessings will last for our entire lives, even into our future lives. The universe is a huge script with countless subscripts within it, and all the small ones serve the huge one. No small script can exceed a larger one. The Milky Way galaxy is a huge script, the solar system is a medium-sized one, Earth is a smaller one, every country is a smaller one still, every organization is a much smaller one, and so on. Strings within quarks, within atomic particles, within molecules have the smallest scripts. Adding the non-material world, 20 parallel worlds, in the 36-dimensional space, it is unimaginable and inexplicable for us to know how complex and how huge the master script is. The above is just a tiny bit of my superficial view based on man's bewilderment for your reference. To know more, you will need to work on statistics, analysis, induction, summing up from a large number of examples of human activities, both ancient and modern, at home and abroad. It will take a lot of effort for you to figure it out.
凡得利需付出代价。
All gains must be paid. Xiefeng. June 4th, 2011. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. One ironclad rule of the universe is that the sum of positive and negative energy must always be equal. One ramification of this is that you must pay for of your gains. They must always balance each other and higher prices must be paid for greater rewards. For an equal amount of gems, diamonds usually demand higher prices than rubies and emeralds. Diamonds require the most money to buy. Obtaining more precious things requires you to pay higher prices. By carefully observing human society, it seems confusing and complicated on its surface, totally out of order. However, through careful observation, it can be concluded that what is gained always equals that which has been paid. The more one pays, the more they gain, and the more they gain, the more they must pay. There are no free lunches. Nothing in the universe can be achieved without a payment. What is lost at sunrise will be gained at sunset, and what is gained at sunrise will be lost at sunset. As one falls, another rises, rising here and setting there. When one gains money, something must be paid. It might be labor, reputation, peace, or even life. When one pays money, something must be gained. It might be comfort, safety, fame, status, physical beauty, or honor. It makes sense that a loss of money avoids other misfortune. Material payments do not always give you material rewards. They might be mental or spiritual. As such, mental or spiritual payments might gain you material rewards. If you pay something, then you will gain something for it, though it can be hard to understand what or when that will be. If you gain, you will pay something, but no final conclusion can be reached as to what or when that will be either, because it might involve health, safety, promotion, wealth, reputation, status, affection, or other life factors. In order to understand the rule that paying and gaining always balance out, that the ironclad law of the sum of positive and negative energy always equal each other, you must not consider only a short time period, but rather a whole life or even the karma of 3 incarnations to judge and draw a conclusion. Through the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, Allah warned us that if all of one's desires are met in this life, then none will remain for the afterlife. There is never any profit at the expense of others, whether parents, offspring, spouses, or lovers, and regardless of whether you are given something for free, find it on the road by yourself, your boss rewards your work, or you dig it out from deep under the ground on your own. As long as you have gained something, you must pay. Why do people suffer pain and hardships or meet with catastrophes? Because they have gained something? Why are people happy and joyous, and why do they obtain good opportunities and grace? Because they have paid something? What revelation can we get from this principle? Never profit from other people's expenses at any time. Never fish in troubled waters. Never profit from others' misfortunes. And take nothing for free, not even donations and contributions. No one should ever be under the delusion that they will get something from their husband or wife for free. You must meet all your needs, pay more, and gain less. Once you pay, you are bound to gain. This goes without saying. Whenever you gain something, always remember that a loss is inevitable. You can escape it in the short run, but not forever. You might escape a blow in the mortal world, but you cannot escape punishment from Tao in heaven. To reap more valuable rewards, a higher price must be sown. To reach the kingdom of heaven, you must dedicate everything, your entire body and soul. As the guide of human life and life, I state these words here. You can inspect, test, and verify them, but time and results will tell whether or not they are correct.
人间八道，
8 Ways Through the Mortal World. Xiefeng, June 21st, 2010. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Our universe consists of 20 parallel worlds within 36-dimensional space. Among these 20, our mortal world is designated as the XY world and manifests itself as 3-dimensional space. The 20 parallel worlds all have symmetry, as does all of 36-dimensional space. From the perspective of reincarnation and the evolution of life, there are high-level spaces such as the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Elysium world, and low-level space such as the inflamed layer, the frozen layer, and the netherworld. The mortal world is the midpoint at which they cross. It is a transfer station for the evolution and reincarnation of life between the higher-level spaces and the lower-level ones. This means that lives from low-level spaces advancing to high-level ones and those from high-level spaces falling to low-level ones must pass through this mortal world as a transfer station. The mortal world is a traffic hub just like the Zhengzhou railway station in China, where crowds come and go, back and forth, hustling and bustling each and every day, determinately and actively. It is easy to see that apart from those who work there, they all scatter quickly to their separate directions and transfer to other cars, buses, trains, and airplanes toward their individual destinations, running along their ways busily. In the mortal world, chaos arises with constant fighting and struggling. Each holds their own ambition, each has their own axe to grind, each administers in their own way, and each realizes their own wishes. As a temporary stage, each team performs its own show to the maximum, and as a temporary inn, passengers from different places stay briefly before parting company and going their separate ways. Each pursues their own prospects. To pursue one's prospect of reaching their destination, they must proceed in certain ways. Without a good way, or by choosing a wrong one, they will never reach their destination. Were they to board the wrong vehicle, their wish would remain just a wish, and their destination would remain out of reach. To be an entrepreneur, one needs to take the way of the market. To do business and make money, they must take the way of circulation. And to be a doctor, they must take the way of medical science and skill. Airplanes must taxi down runways, ships have to float on waterways, trains should run on railway tracks, and cars need to remain on roads and streets. From the perspective of the evolution and reincarnation of life, humans in the mortal world must take one of the following 8 ways and pass on to its associated destination. The way of the greatest creator. One models themselves after nature with holographic order thinking, open-heartedness, flexibility, and tact. They will rise to the celestial islands continent. The way of gods. One worships gods quite distinct from each other, bellicose and domineering. They will advance to Azura heaven. The way of Buddha. One pursues non-form and refines their concept of no abode for the mind and returns to the nature of Tathagata. They will ascend to the Elysium world. The way of celestial beings. One takes skepticism, non-dogma, and freedom as their first priorities and cultivates magical powers as their core. They will climb to the celestial being's world. The way of humans. One pursues fame and material wealth, attaches great importance to family love and emotions, and remains fond of organization and power. They will return to the mortal world to continue their samsara and return as another human. The way of animals. One takes food, clothing, shelter, transportation, growing up, aging, health, and avoiding death as their first priorities of life, with the acquisition of money as their core value. They will descend to the animal world. The way of ghosts. One neither abides by rules nor laws, but conjures, lurks, and sneaks around like a ghost, speaks one way, but thinks and acts another, and is fond of hiding and good at lying. They will drop into the hell world. The way of Satan. One is fond of dwelling upon spirits and deities, fortunes and disasters, being ambitious and arrogant, blasphemes the greatest creator, and insults the gods. In order to achieve their goals, they plunge lives into abysses of misery and destroy nature by hook or by crook. They will fall into the inflamed layer or the frozen layer. Like attracts, birds of a feather flock together. The way that one takes depends upon their kind of consciousness and their life structure. Divine punishments are slow but sure, is also the arrangement and program of Tao. All have their duties and accountabilities, which make each and every one of them vivid and exciting. Whether they know it or not, each person takes their way. Most are led along ignorantly and uncaringly, but a small number choose theirs clearly and plainly. You, who have read this article, should consider using it as a reference. If you discard what I wrote as groundless nonsense, then simply throw it away. You can even scold and criticize me. But if you feel that it has merit, then consider it as having value because you could benefit from it. Possess nothing yet have everything. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by